Good morning and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the pitches. So we're here right now with our first team. So welcome to the Baddies in STEM. And I will pass over the presentation to you now.
Alrighty, just give me a second. Alrighty, is everybody on my team ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, I'm ready. I'll turn my video. Should we turn on our videos?
Yeah, if you want, if you're comfortable.
Oh, it's 2 a.m. No.
I'm watching the sunrise right now. We're all a little bit feeling
Just a little
we're
bit
all
tired.
somewhere in the
Yep.
US, it's like 5:30.
I'm excited to sleep after this, but we've done some good work, so it's been fun.
Awesome.
And then Georgiana, where is she?
I don't see her, but I think she told me she was having some tech problems joining. Yeah. Sorry.
Alrighty.
Okay.
She might join a little bit into it, but
Okay, so we can get started.
yeah. So basically, our team chose the finance track, and I think the thing that we were all thinking about during that is we're all either about to be college students or current college students. And I personally have a bunch of friends who just graduated with their bachelor degrees. And we've obviously just hit such wildly high unemployment rates that we haven't seen since like the recession. So we wanted to focus our project on how are people who are graduating with bachelor degrees going to get jobs, and where should they be looking for them? So basically we took as much data as we could find about job markets in all the different US states, and also specific types of jobs like the different sectors, technology, humanities, so on and so forth, and where folks should be going to try to find work, both right now and after all of this is over. And to do that, we wound up creating a website to display all of our information and our findings as displayed by Jilly. And yeah, I think I'm going to turn it over to her.
Alrighty, so this is the about page. It's just to get you guys a general understanding, like what's the point of this whole project. So we compared, we did research and we found information on unemployment rates, salaries, all these different things as recently as we could in the context of COVID-19. We compared unemployment rates in the context of the pandemic and what industries the states profit off of. The recovery score, which was created by one of our own, which considered the quality of the healthcare system and the population density. We also looked at the conditions of the workforce prior to the economic crisis. Was this a growing industry? Was this a dwindling industry? And then we compared it with the salary and cost of living, as most graduates will have to deal with student loans straight out of college. Moving on to research, we each took a little piece of the research. I specifically went into unemployment rates and the availability of jobs within each state, because the unemployment rates tell you a lot when you do analysis on them, what jobs are being lost in the market. So I created I used a statistical test. I found the Z-score, which is basically another way of saying how many standard deviations away from the norm is the data currently. So I compared January 2019 to March 2020. So that's 15 months prior to the most recent data, which is April 2020. And with every single piece of data, it is statistically significant. It is way beyond the norm. And it is a lot higher than usual. And I know you could have looked at a graph and been like, yeah, we can tell it's shooting up. However, the standard deviation especially tells you a lot about how well a state has been doing. For instance, Hawaii, their standard deviation is a little under 0.1. And as you can tell from their data, you can see that there's not much change, which tells you that the job market before the crisis hit was actually fairly stable. So if you were looking for a job somewhere where you're confident that it's fairly stable, this would be good information to look at. However, Hawaii, along with Nevada, have the highest unemployment rates because they work mostly in tourism, and they've had to shut down a lot of that and lay off a lot of people because there's not a lot of tourism going on. And especially with Hawaii's 2-week quarantine period, not a lot of people are going to go to Hawaii just to sit in a hotel room rather than go to the sunny beaches. So that's basically what I found from my research into this. We also saw that Michigan was doing very poorly and had a very high unemployment rate. Here's the data on that. With that, we found that Michigan had this problem because there's a lot of manufacturing and factories in Michigan that are building parts. However, with the capacity of the factories, they had to limit that, therefore limiting the amount of money they'd get in because they wouldn't have as much product, and therefore causing a domino effect. You have to lay off more people because you're not having as much money.
Yeah, and so just kind of adding on to what Jilly was began to talk about. So some industries did dramatically change overnight, like the service industries, travel, and other things like that. But we chose to look at a few other industries that did not change as much, and we knew would not change since we are fairly early into the COVID-19 crisis. And so I looked a little bit about the industries per state and like where they thrived before COVID-19. And this is especially important for people who are considering looking for new jobs as of right now, again, because it might take some time before we see a lot of differences in all of the job industries, not just the travel and service. And so we looked at the total, we took a few different majors, or I guess degrees that people could graduate with, since our target, since we kind of created this project in order to help people who are looking for jobs who are 2020 graduates. And so first we looked at the total tech occupations per state and the average salaries. And then if you scroll down a little bit, then we also considered healthcare. And so we got this data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, sorry. And then what we did is we compared the two graphs of the charts of the United States to see which states are employing the most people in this industry, and also which states have the highest average salaries. And we can kind of combine those two statistics to determine the states that you should go to depending on the bachelor degree that you graduate with. And we did that for engineering jobs. And then we did we wanted to include a few humanities, not just STEM, although we all are team baddies in STEM, which is why we did a little bit more STEM focused. We also did teaching, so educators, and then business and finance as well. And we'll go into that a little bit more and the specific states that we found would be best for each industry at the end when we look at our conclusions and the main part of our website.
Yeah, my portion of the research, I wanted to get some data from back in the 2008 recession financial crisis, and basically just mapped data from 25 of the different states and their unemployment rates during from a single month, a month prior to that, and 5 months out from that, to see how they changed across this across that span of time, to maybe just think about how that's going to be relating to the current crisis. We also included a link to the programming for that. We used the API provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics to create this chart, and we also have data in the file provided about the current economic state that people can play around with on the web on their own time. We just wanted to provide that because it was really hard navigating the BLS API. So once we figured it out, I want other folks to have access to that more easily than I did.
Yeah, and so moving on to a little bit, we call this future of jobs because the thing is, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last and what exactly the effects are going to be. But because of the nature of our project and what our goal was, we wanted to try and collect data that would allow us to try and figure out which states would have the most stable job markets going forward, even if we don't know when this pandemic is going to end, nor the extent of its effects. So what I looked at is, and I know I could have considered a lot of different factors, however, time limited me greatly. So if I had more time, I would definitely add more statistics and more data to kind of inform this recovery score, as I called it. And so what I looked at the ranking of each state in terms of the population density, as well as the quality of the healthcare system, just because the more dense the population, the more difficult it's going to be to maintain social distancing practices. And also the easier it is for the virus to possibly spread, thereby delaying the end of social distancing practices and the return to the norm. Sorry.
Time is up.
Cool.
And we will move on to the question answer session now.
Okay.
Okay. So,
what technologies did you use for the research, or like for anything?
I think all of the programming that we did was in Python, and we also made pretty good use of spreadsheets. I think we specifically used Google Sheets quite a bit to do a lot of the calculations and formulas that were a bit easier to do there than in Python.
Especially for
the
figuring
website,
out the best states. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No problem, no problem. I just wanted to butt in, like, the website is made obviously with HTML, and then with this I use JavaScript to allow like an entry to pop up. I mean, I just did it fast, so did invalid entry, but yeah,
That's
just
very cool.
there's some JavaScript in there too.
And where did you get the data from?
We got a lot of it from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That was where most of the graphs that we showed came from, as well as the data that we used Python with to kind of help analyze. That API a great deal.
Do you have a README or something where, like, how we can run and generate the web page or something like that somewhere?
I didn't have time to finish a README.
Okay.
We were kind of cutting close on time. I apologize. And this is my first hackathon, so
No
I
worries.
just, yeah.
Just curious.
It would be really cool to look at it later if you manage.
Yeah. You can play around with it. It'll tell you where you should go based off of the research we've done. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and we have the most promising states kind of that performed well in all the categories below, but you can also click on specific industries at the top, and that'll lead you to more specific entries based on each industry and the projected jobs.
Nice.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for organizing the hackathon.
Thank you so much, ladies. This was super duper cool. And it's really cool that it was your first hackathon too, because that's always really fun.
Yeah, go team, so cool.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's no other questions from the judges, yeah, well, we'd like to say thank you so much for this amazing, like super relevant presentation. and we'll kick you ladies out, and we'll get going to the next the next group who are circuit breaker.
But you can always watch the stream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just mean
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So next up,
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Hi everyone. Just
Hi.
I think they're in.
Hi.
Hi.
Yep. So I'm just waiting on Yichong and Melissa. I think are they in here already, Minghao?
Again, I can't hear.
Are they in
Can't
the
hear,
chat? Yeah, they're supposed to be presenting. So yep, she's here.
All right. I'll pass over the share screen permissions to you.
To
Welcome.
Yichong. Yep.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. Does this work well? Can y'all see the screen?
Yes, great.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone in different time zones. We did a small sentiment analysis on our data based on the Twitter API. So we're in track 2. So our team name is Circuit Breaker. So our team members are myself, Melissa, Wai Lun, and Ming Hong. Let's move on. So this is going to be how our presentation outline. So firstly, we'll talk about our goals, which is what we initially set out to want to explore and get data out from. And then we'll talk about our data extraction processes. And then lastly, I'll pass on to Melissa to talk about the data analysis and the reports that we got. So our goal initially is to explore the concept of working from home through the Twitter tweets. So we felt that as people are forced to work from home, we wanted to find out how people actually feel about it and whether this has actually changed or did it have changes as people get locked down more and more? Are they getting more annoyed? Are they getting more frustrated? Or are they getting more encouraging towards one another as we head through difficult times? So I'll start off with a few restrictions that we faced while we were trying to do this project. So the first one we faced were API rate limits. We actually, at first, we wrote a loop to get all the tweets in one go. And then we actually crashed the rate limit that Emily has given us for. So we had to ask her for a new key, but she gave us extra access. So we used whatever we have of the leftover API calls that we were given. This restriction on the API rate limits actually resulted in a loss of data coverage because firstly, we have planned to actually analyze a larger network of tweets, which include the retweets, the quotes, and the mentions of tweets that contain the hashtag work from home, as well as the related hashtags, aside from just WFH. We also plan to actually get more data from a larger date range. We plan to actually get data from about the time when COVID started to up to about now, so we can see generally how the sentiments evolved across time. But because of this limit, we were not able to do as much as what we wanted to. So I'll leave Melissa to talk to you about that later. The next thing would be language, because we were mainly using wit.ai as our sentiment analysis engine. So the language analysis accuracy for wit.ai actually does not work well for translations. So our workaround was to only analyze tweets in English, which also resulted in a loss of data completion. Yeah. The next one will be word limit as well. With AI imposes a word limit of 200 words on a text string that it accepts for sentiment analysis, while tweets go up to actually 250, I think, or more. Yeah, so there were some tweets where we passed in that could not return results, and we couldn't find any other workaround because we couldn't pass the text and send it in or things like that because it works differently for sentiment analysis. Yep. So how we did data extraction was with firstly the Twitter API. So we just got tweets with the hashtag from before yesterday. So we got as far as we could by exhausting all the API calls that we could get. And then we used JavaScript for our field extractions and dealing with the API. And then we pass the text of the tweets to wait.ai for the text sentiment analysis for it to return the results to us. Okay, so I'll now pass on to Melissa to talk about the data analysis part.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Cheong. Okay, I will share about what our findings are from the data that we managed to scrape from Twitter. So next. So we passed the tweets through with AI, and we with AI sorted the tweets into these 4 main categories: positive, negative, neutral, and mixed. So positive and negative are pretty much self-explanatory. Neutral means that the tweet is not really like a happy tweet or a sad tweet. Yeah, and mixed is there are connotations of both a positive and negative sentiments in the tweet. Yeah, so mixed. And the data set that we managed to get from exhausting all the APIs that were provided to us comprised of 71,500 tweets spanning across 2.5 weeks. So we got tweets from about 6 May up to 23rd of May. Yeah, next. And so we analyzed, because a lot of tweets use multiple hashtags, not just WFH. So we looked at which hashtags are most commonly used together with WFH to get a rough gauge of what else that the tweet might be talking about other than just their experience about working from home. So the most commonly used hashtag is COVID-19, while the other popular hashtags are work from home spelled out in full, and remote work, COVID, and Zoom. A lot of tweets also talked about parenting and being quarantined and confined to their homes as well. Yeah, next. So we also looked at the average count of words in a tweet to see how detailed the tweets are. And the most common word count is 21 words. Yeah, but the longest tweet that we got was about 80 words, but we cut that off because there was an outlier, so we didn't include it in the graph. Yeah, next. So based on the sentiment analysis from Wit AI, we plotted the sentiments of tweets across time. So as mentioned before, we got data from 6 May to 23rd May, and we could see that an overwhelmingly large proportion of the tweets are neutral, because they are, most of the tweets are neutral, and followed by positive tweets, and then mixed emotions tweets and negative tweets. So we could, this suggests that maybe in the past 2.5 weeks, people are not actually feeling too bad about being confined to their home. Maybe they're actually used to it already, or they've just accepted it as a way of life. But people are not too unhappy about having to work from home. And we can see there are also dips in the tweet count across the 2.5 weeks, and the dips are actually I think the dips occur every Sunday. So actually people tweet less on Sundays about working from home, which is understandable because not a lot of people work on Sundays. Yeah. Next. Okay, and so we analyzed like the sentiments. We thought that maybe across different days of the week, people might feel differently and tweet as such. But from our analysis, it shows that like actually the pattern of percentage of sentiments across the days of the week is pretty similar. Like there is not much significant change. So we would say that like, yeah, there's not a single day of the week where people feel more strongly in a certain way about working from home. Okay, next. And so, as mentioned by Yi-Cheong, we couldn't really analyze the like engagement in detail because of the limited APIs, but we managed to look at the count of engagements according to the different sentiments of tweets, and we could tell that like, so these are the percentage of tweets with engagements sorted according to the sentiment given by Wit AI, and neutral tweets have the most engagement, like higher percentage of engagement as compared to the other types of tweets. Yeah, next. Yeah, and this is the tweet that we found with the highest number of engagements. It is this tweet about memes, and it is actually a neutral tweet. So I guess like maybe the picture resounded on with users so that they had like more tweets and retweets and likes. Yeah, next. Yeah, so this is our findings from our analysis, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question. What is your conclusion after you've done the research?
Yeah, our main conclusion is that like most of the tweets are like people don't feel very strongly about like they don't feel very strongly negative or positive about working from home. I think like most of the tweets are just talking about their experience, but it's not necessarily like it's not very obvious from the tweets whether they are like enjoying or like really upset with their work from home experience or not. Yeah, because most of the tweets are neutral. In the
Why do you
past
think
2.5
that is?
weeks. Sorry?
Why do you think that is? And can you how can you improve the research? Do you think there is something else that you could have done in the or in the future?
Yeah. In the future, yeah, if like we would have loved to look into the comments because it would be interesting to see like for maybe a neutral tweet how many comments are like positive or negative, to see like how one person can influence the emotions of the people who see the tweet.
So now you're not taking into consideration the retweets, right?
Yeah, we couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because we realized that like we couldn't even finish like just from one hashtag itself for the time period that we wanted to. So we figured like, you know, if we use more API calls for the retweets and the comments, then it would actually like exhaust up quite a bit. Yeah. Because each comment will have to take like one API call on itself. So if we can get 500 tweets with one API call versus probably like 10 comments on one tweet with one API call. So we had to like balance that out. And so we chose the former.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Nadine. I do have a question about, let's say, the goal of this data. I understand that you kind of analyzed the mood of the society, but do you have any ideas how to use this data in the future?
We were like thinking, okay, I was thinking I'd probably we can see the correlations between the tweets versus like when the company. So nowadays there's a lot of companies like Twitter or MasterCard that announce that the employees can continue to work from home if they wanted to. So like we can match these tweets, I guess, like try to find out if they had mentioned their organization or their location to see like whether, you know, maybe working from home is more enjoyable for people in, let's say, richer areas, you know, but people who stay in less like richer areas would have problems working at home because, let's say, of choppy internet or whatever. Yeah.
So I'd say the target group for your analysis would be mostly the employers. Or what would you say? Or the
So perhaps I'll explain a bit more here. So I think what Yichang is trying to convey is that I think how we can improve our analysis is to make sure that to actually try to find out like if a particular person who tweets is related to some company. But we initially wanted to do that. For example, if someone is working on Facebook and working for Facebook, and like whether or not this person is actually like from their tweets, are they happy about working from home? But we eventually ran into some problems because it's not as easy to find out whether like this person is working for Facebook or for any other company. So I think if we were able to analyze a more in depth into like all the tweets of a particular person, maybe you can find out a bit more information about where they work, and yeah, perhaps this might improve our analysis in that maybe we could maybe we can talk about if this for different companies and maybe different sectors, for example, in software engineering or banking, like what are the feelings of the workers in this particular sector, and about working from home. Yeah, so I hope
Fabulous.
that yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Time is up. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Super duper exciting. And now we'll call to the stand the next team for the third pitch, Crown Pride. So let me know whenever you're ready to start sharing the screen, and I'll stop mine. Thank you so much, you guys.
Hi, Emily, and everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're from. So I will start off for my team, Crown Pride, and if I can share my screen.
You got it.
Okay, I have to share the screen. Okay, let me know if everyone can see the screen.
Yes, we can see.
Yes.
Okay. So my team is myself and Gopinath. We are both from the same university, and then Mahalakshmi is from TUM and Victoria is from Berlin. So our theme of our project work for this hackathon is to gather COVID tweets, analysis, and see if there is any correlation with stock market crashing or falling. And for this, we picked the DJI stock, the Dow Jones Industrial Index. And I will just start off with the work that we did. Can everyone see this line plot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first plot, so my work was concerning the interactive visualizations for this. And to start off with is the basic line plot with this bokeh hover tool. You can see the date and count of COVID cases by day, and you can drag this slider and it will show you the most recent count. The next visualization that we made is also similar. Now it tracks by countries. You can see it on a GIS plot. So again, you have like a date slider. It shows again, you have a hover tool that shows the cases of deaths, recovery, confirmed cases for this country on that day. And there is this color map, which highlights the contrast for the number of cases. So this is an introduction. We want to just build our story from this. Okay, we know that coronavirus is having this impact, and how historically has it spread in the last 3 months. And now we come to our actual stock market. So for this, we picked the DJI index, which is a collective stock index for the top 30 global companies listed in the US stock markets. So you can see that DJI witnessed a crashing trend from February 15th, and it reached its lowest on March 23rd. And from March 23rd onwards, it's showing signs of recovery. So we restricted our Twitter data acquisition to these dates. We were not able to gather so much data because of the API limitations. So we gathered data from March 1 to March 5th, which is 5 days, just to show fall data. And then from March 23rd to March 28th, 5 days to show a recovery data analysis. And here we show the polarity scores for the tweets that we gathered. So here there was the fall data, and you can see that the polarity score matches the market trend. And at this point, I would like Maha to step in to talk about it. Maha, can you talk?
So here we basically collected the old tweets and found the polarity score using text block. So here what you see is that the polarity score started to vary from the dates we saw the crash in DJI index. So if you look at March 1st, the collective sentiment or the polarity was towards minus 0.5 to 0.5. But as the period grows, we see that people are beginning to show their emotions. So towards the end, you see that the concentration is widespread, and also people are more expressive when the fall actually happened.
Also, you can talk about the polarity for the recovery.
Yes. So when the recovery started happening, we started seeing decreasing polarity scores for the negative index. So if you look at 27th March, majority of the tweets we collected showed positive polarity. So similar thing we observed in the subjectivity case as well.
So subjectivity for the fall case.
Yes.
And we also had a subjectivity plot for the recovery case. You have anything to add about this?
No, you can move on.
Okay, so then I will stop screen sharing and will now give the control to Victoria, who will talk about the data analytics and how we set up the pipeline for this whole project. Yeah.
Okay. So what we did in some accelerations and some clarifications on the analysis
itself. Can
itself.
you share your screen?
Yeah, I don't have it prepared, the screen, because you were going to share it. Sorry for the problem here. But while I'll try to prepare everything to share, I just want to clarify something that we did two data recollections. One was in the real-time tweets. We gathered the tweets from real time, and then we did the analysis and did some analysis on that to see kind of like what was the picture there. And then we did a second one, which was linked to the analysis that was just shown from the market itself to see how was the sentiment on those days. Sorry.
Victoria, can you share your screen, or Dilip, can you?
I don't have the Maybe Maha, do you have that open, right? The Jupyter notebook.
Yes. Victoria, do you want me to share the screen?
No, could you please share it? Because I don't have it prepared or running because that was not what I was expecting.
Yes, Maha, could you please share the screen?
How do I share it?
There
There's
is
a
a
share
green
screen
icon
button in the bottom.
next to the chats and participants.
No, I don't find an option to share it. I have only record.
Okay, I have it. Sorry for that. Again, so what we did basically is try to classify the sentiment analysis that we collected with the text block. We were specifically looking into finance stocks to get an idea because that was the topic of the analysis. What we then did, we did workloads both ways. We wanted to see if we could find something different. One was in the text itself. This one is in the text, and you can see that it's the words are very, very different than the ones that we have with the hashtags, for example. In the case of the hashtags, these are the hashtags. And in the case of the hashtags, we have very different words, but most of them were related to the pandemic itself. So there wasn't much of information in here. It was something like, for example, this kind of words, in case you missed it, or something like that. There wasn't really anything so interesting in the hashtag itself. We then separated them in in the positive ones and in the negative ones. And in the negative ones, it was interesting that we were able to see, for example, Dominic Cummings. So they wrote it wrong, I guess, in the hashtag. But for example, this is a new, and here is again. This is a new, some news that appeared last night that was actually trending topic from an account from someone else, that this person broke for the second time the quarantine. And then we have CNN, the news. So this was very interesting to see how the real, what was actually happening was shown here in the hashtags for the negative analysis. Here we had an overview on the polarity that we saw by country. And it's interesting to see how, so something that was maybe not clarified, but I think just in case someone doesn't know, the polarity scores goes from positive to negative in a number, but it's also related to a sentiment. So the most negative is the most negative sentiment, 0 would be something neutral, and the most positive, a positive one. And it's interesting to see how each country varies a lot, and most of them, they seem to be on the edges. There's not much neutral. And the neutrals one are, for example, like Ecuador, which doesn't tweet. So we filter English tweets. In Ecuador, they speak Spanish. So that would also have been something to improve in the analysis.
I would like to add some more things. So we can see we have collected data from various nations of the world, which shows that there are mixed opinions about positive, negative. So we can see that we are actually collecting the real-time data. And also when Victoria showed up the word clouds, yesterday we have Cummings. We are surprised, what is this Cummings not related to COVID? When I looked into the Twitter homepage and looked for Cummings, he's the guy who has break down the lockdown for twice, and it has become a great news in the CNN. So it's not misleading the information keywords available in the word cloud. It is the trending popular tags happening in the Twitter, which shows that we are getting the live stream data from the Twitter. So all our plots, what you see are the live streaming ongoing data in the Twitter. And coming to the conclusion, so we have put our creativity in many things, maybe the interactive geoplots presented by Dilip, a lot of efforts which we have innovative, and also it's real time collecting the confirmed cases ongoing, and also word clouds, which is happening live in the Twitter. So we tried to be as fancy way and creative and innovative that COVID made an economic impact all over the world.
Thank you, guys. That's all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now we'll move on to the questions.
Yeah.
In what setting do you think your project could be used?
It could be used for financial analytics in connection with sentiment analysis. So if there is any rise and fall of stock indexes, there's any news reports or people's reactions to such reports is making an impact in the stock market.
Did the news about Dominic Cummings result in any stock share changes? I didn't see that. Or
we restricted. Sorry, this is something about the UK, right? Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Our query was just running for 5-day intervals from March 1 to March 5 and March 23 to March 28. I do not know whether this happened in that time frame.
Okay.
So it's maybe we can show about the labels. Maha, can you talk about the labels you used to query the data from March 1 to March 5 and March 23rd to 28?
Yeah, so before I talk about that, I want to set the context right. So whatever you see with respect to Dominic Cummings is from the real-time streaming data. Real-time streaming data are not yet incorporated with the financial analysis. We wanted to get to that part, but we couldn't. So we wanted to do even the prediction of index fall or dip, or how much would it change on Monday using the sentiment expressed in Twitter, but we couldn't achieve that. So right now you see two things. One is with respect to static tweets that are archived in Twitter. Using that, we kind of understood how that influenced or how people reacted to the index fall or rise. That is one part. And the next part is the real-time collection of Twitter feed and analyzing the tweets, irrespective of whether it is whether it would influence the economy, market, or anything. So to collect for the archived tweets, we used hashtags with economy-related hashtags like S&P, Nasdaq, and the DJI, all these things. And along with Corona, so it should have Corona and all the market indices tweets. And to understand the real-time things, we had a mix of several things like pandemic, economic crash, and all the hashtags that would express Corona plus the mood of the people and the market. So these two are kind of independent. We wanted to connect them, but because of the lack of time, and we couldn't pace our project in a way that we were able to achieve that. I think I kind of set the context right. Did
yes.
I?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much to Team Crown Pride. That's all the time we have for you. So yes, thank you so much once again for that awesome presentation. And next up, we have pitch number 4.
Hi, that's us.
So hi.
My screen.
Hi.
Mm-hmm. Let me. Oh. Where's the presentation button? Here it is.
Great.
Is it sharing?
It's loading.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna take it from here. So welcome to our little presentation. And we are Team Quatrefoil. That is Celia, Maria Jose, Kevin, and I, Merla. And for this hackathon, we investigated the sentiment towards face masks over time. That is during the last 3 months of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we did this using Reddit data. So to give you a brief overview, you're all aware that discussions about face masks and their effectiveness are ongoing and viral, and the acceptance by the public seems to be very ambiguous. So we've seen mask opponents who want their freedom depicted in the media, but a wider public sentiment of people who don't go on the streets needs to be assessed. So with sentiment analysis, which is a subfield of natural language processing, we can extract the attitudes from a given text, which is in our case a Reddit comment, and see how positive and negative it is. And by analyzing this over time, it can help us measure the impact that government messaging has had on the public and determine how it's being received. So our main goal here is really to help policy makers with these insights. So let's have a look at our data collection.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about our data collection. First of all, we extracted our data using Python, using the PushShift API, which basically stores a mirror copy of all Reddit content, allowing us to break any rate limit that the normal Reddit API has. So we were able to collect as much data as we could. And we ended up extracting more than 125,000 Reddit comments that contained the text face mask, face, or mask between the period of 22nd of February to 22nd of May, so the past 3 months. Obviously, like after that, we needed to clean the data a little bit because we saw that some of the comments were about beauty masks or about gas masks or about other non-COVID related content. So we decided to remove a lot of the noise by keeping comments that contain only strictly COVID-19 related terms, such as corona, virus, coughing, flu, NHS, N95, so anything that's really related to just wearing or protective equipment or medical masks. So we deleted all the other non-related mentions. And in the end, we ended up with more than 8,000 relevant comments. And after that, we used this for our sentiment analysis in Python and R.
I'm going to take it from here and just like give a brief overview over the data we collected. So over these 8,000 comments. First of all, one reason we chose to use Reddit data is because we can really go back in time, which we can't really do with Twitter, right? Because we can only go back with Twitter for 1 week. We could go back 3 months. So this is the data we collected over the 3 months. We see that face masks were more discussed like during February and March, like there was an increase in discussion and a peak around April, which probably coincides with the peak in anxiety of people. Like a lot of like events were just like happening every day and governments were shutting down. So we really see this nice peak and then it's kind of stable. Of course, Reddit, like maybe a word about how Reddit is organized. Reddit is organized in subreddits, so sub-communities. And obviously not all of our, we collected data from over 1,600 subreddits, but obviously not the same amount of comments from each subreddit because some subreddits are really fringe like subreddits that are really small. And we see that 50% of our data comes just from 57 subreddits. So we have a large concentration of data in some subreddits. We see though, like these are the subreddits where we get most of our comments from. So the biggest one by far is the subreddit coronavirus, which makes sense. Then we have 2 subreddits that are about news, which also makes sense to us. And then the third one is Ask Reddit and Politics, which are both really huge subreddits in itself, meaning that there's a lot of people being in that subreddit. So it makes sense that we get a lot of data from there. But overall, it looks like our filtering method is valid because we have these sensible subreddits that we get the most comments from.
And I'll talk a little bit about the sentiment analysis that we performed now. So What we used was a lexicon-based approach using the Vader dictionary. So what that means is that essentially we create compound scores for a piece of text, in this case a comment, based on like the sentiment score assigned to words in that text. So we calculate the overall score for each comment, and then here we aggregated by date to track kind of overall sentiment over time. Vader has been built for social media data, and it understands things that are used in social media data a lot, like colloquial words like sucks, like SUX, or like friggin' or kinda. And it'll understand acronyms as well, like LOL and UTF-8 encoded emojis. So it's a very it's a great way to really dig into rich textual data. So here we can see that over our time horizon, the sentiment towards face masks has increased slightly. We see most of that increase going from like an ambivalent or neutral 0 to a more positive, call it 0.12, like almost 0.2 in April, and then kind of stabilizing since then. So we see that sentiment is overall slightly positive if we look at kind of the smooth curve, but obviously there's fluctuations that happen in the day to day. Here we try to disaggregate again by the most popular subreddits that Celia mentioned, and we can see that there are some coincidences with like important dates in, call it the coronavirus timeline. So when late March, the UK and US lockdown starts, and this is also, we kind of focused on UK US news because one, Reddit is mostly English speaking, and two, like about half of the population is from the US, so which, kind of like informed our focus here. So our lockdown starts in late March, and we see that it increases a little bit on aggregate, but then in early April, Foki advises people to wear masks, and we see not really a clear impact of that, general statement. Notably, there's a peak around April 24th, which is where April 24th, April 25th, which is where President Trump advised people or suggested that people inject Lysol, which we thought was really interesting to see how like Reddit is reacting to certain pieces of news. So yeah, overall, we can see that sentiment has increased slightly, but kind of like stabilized. And yeah, this is Trump's impact.
So to add some valuable contextual information and to validate our results, we also looked at the most commonly used words in negative face mask comments, for example. So in negative face mask comments, these are the words, and you can see that Chinese associations seem to be very present. We can see terms such as China, Asian, Chinese, also Dai, etc. And this is actually very different from the positive words. So here you can clearly see that protect is really a striking term. And other terms specific to positive face mask comments are help, good, etc. So we can see that people talking negatively about face masks make this association with China more often than people who talk about face masks in a more positive context. And this is a very striking result we found. Yeah, so what are the implications?
So as we said, that there's been essentially like a slightly upwards trend, but that it has kind of stabilized, remaining only slightly positive over the time period examined.
And yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Merle.
And as I've said, negative face mask comments are more frequently related to China. And this is, of course, not a causal analysis at all, but it can be evidence for mask opponents being a little more prejudiced, actually.
Yeah. So of the two threads here that we've kind of looked at, the comments about China are definitely would be interesting to pursue in a hate speech context, but we wanted to focus on is using our analysis to inform policymakers on the public perception of face masks, especially as they release guidance and more information on how and when to use them. So I know that the government is, for example, government affiliated agencies like the Behavioral Insights Group ran an experiment around instructions around how to use face masks, seeing if people are using them correctly and, kind of showing them different sets of instructions and measuring that. So we think that our analysis could be complementary to government-led initiatives of this sort, like the study that I just mentioned. And yeah, we hope that policymakers will consider the impact of their messaging on the public for the good of the general public health. And that's it. Cool. Happy to hear your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Super, super interesting. So how would you say, like, I guess, where did this idea come from?
I received newsletters from the Behavioral Insights group, and I had just read their study, which is an experiment on showing 5,000 adults different instructions and then measuring efficacy of those instructions and then their perceptions of using face mask based on the different kinds of instructions. So I thought, this is something interesting that government agencies are already looking at. I also just bought my own face mask not too long ago. So yeah, it's just a mix of academic inspiration and lived experience inspiration. And yeah, obviously it's something we're all thinking about as a group.
Yeah, and just to quickly add, at least for me personally, seeing, especially in Germany, all these conspiracy theorists in the media that are going on strike without wearing masks, etc., is kind of biasing my personal view. And for this reason, we really wanted to assess how a broader population is actually thinking about face masks and get this more objective assessment.
I think your project is really interesting, and it could really help governments guide people in a more clear way, so that conspiracy theories are not so influential as they are right now. What I wanted to ask you is, if you analyzed only negative and positive sentiment, or was there anything else that you looked into? Because I can imagine it would be really interesting to analyze other components of people's emotions that go into.
So this has to do, I think, a little bit with the way that Vader works, Vader sentiment analysis. So it's not necessarily a binary 1, it's negative, or 0, it's not negative. What Vader is really good at is giving us a magnitude. So it'll say how positive and how negative it is, which is kind of the great thing about it, or the innovation. There was an option to look at neutral or ambivalent comments, but just for computational reasons, we decided to focus on the positive or negative. But absolutely, an extension of this would be to analyze maybe more the presence of ambivalent comments and what that might mean to policymakers.
Yeah, we also thought about using other, this is a dictionary we applied on text, and obviously there's dictionaries for feelings as well, not just negative and positive, but hate or whatever. But just because of the time constraints and the computational time we had, we didn't do that. But obviously that would be a nice extension.
Yeah, Celia, you were mentioning that there was one that you guys used.
Yeah.
What was the one exactly?
A moral dictionary.
Moral dictionary.
For example, yes. So there would be multiple options to extend this, but it was mostly a time constraint reason we didn't do it.
So I guess our goal with this was kind of to use it as a pilot study and show the usefulness and sentiment analysis towards something like this.
That's really cool. I think it would be really, really cool if you actually continue this project. It would be really useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, oh yeah. Any more questions? Sorry, I think we have maybe 30 more seconds. I love that. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much, Quatrefoil. That was a wonderful presentation. And next up, we will have pitch number 5 with team how do we say it? 089 or 89?
Isn't this like James Bond? No, sorry.
Hi, wait, I will turn on my camera.
Hello.
089 is good. It's the index of the telephone number of Munich.
Amazing, cute. Well, welcome team 089 to your pitch. So let me know when you are ready to share a screen.
Irina will do that.
Yeah, just a moment.
So are you all in Munich?
Yes.
Wonderful.
But we couldn't meet up.
Yeah.
Hope it's working.
Yes.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Hi.
Good.
So.
And Maria is also in our team. We're 3 people.
Yes.
Okay, so
Carolina?
I will start. So our topic was tweet topic modeling. So we chose the second topic. And right, we will show you the outline. Right, so first we will talk about choosing our topic and what's useful about it. Then how we collected the data. Then how we dealt with noisy data. Right, then finding the most relevant words and topics. Then the visualization and future work. So first we wanted to work with sentiment analysis. Right, so we we tried to collect a lot of data, but we had issues with our developer accounts. So at some point we just thought, okay, there's probably going to be a lot of sentiment analysis projects. So what else could we do? And we decided to work with topic modeling because we wanted to figure out what matters to people, what's bothering them in context of COVID-19. I hope that makes sense. Good. Right, so.
Should I show the next slide?
Yes. So first we collected the data from Twitter, from last day it was, on the last day. And these word clouds show us the raw data, like the real keywords of Twitter right now about Corona. For sure, it's Corona, pandemic, COVID, COVID-19, people, and so on. So then we decided to extend our stop word list a little bit, so we don't have only the keywords of Corona, and we wanted to have other keywords for our topics. So that's why we extended our stop word list and we deleted Corona, pandemic, COVID, and etc. And we had another visualization. Irina?
Yeah.
Here, the next one. Yes. So we deleted the simplest words, and it's our result with the 50 frequent words on Twitter. So just like the keywords of each tweet in context, or in each word in context of Corona.
Okay, and let me show you our code to for collecting of tweets.
So we worked with Python, just so it's clear.
And the origin idea was to collect tweets with location, but later we didn't need it. We didn't need the locations basically. Okay.
Das habe ich nicht verstanden. Im Moment gibt es keine Internetverbindung.
Okay. So, and in this visualization, we also had all types of words. And for us, it was also not so useful. So, okay, it was useful, but not so, we can't understand each topic so really. And that's why we decided to take only nouns for our next visualization. So it gave us more information about real topics on Twitter.
Right, we played around. We played around with different Python tools, and then just decided on one. We can show you the code, right? So this is the code for the next visualization that you will see. So we worked with bigrams to figure out the most relevant words. Then with stop words, we played around, but it somehow didn't work. So in our topics, they still showed, for example, to go as a topic, so which is not very useful. So then we, like you can see it in line 12, we said, okay, only filter out the nouns, because that's
it's here.
Because for topics, it gives us more information.
Right.
Than other word types.
Right. So then we cleaned the data from like punctuation, stuff like that, links, Twitter handles, and then we worked with lemmatization and bigrams and right. And then we could, like, it's very, I can't go into detail here, but then this package, this Python package, it's called GenSim. You can visualize data with that. So we can show you an example
of our, yeah.
Right. So this is only for 20 tweets. It shows like 5 topics, 5 possible topics of those 20 tweets. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to work out like the most dominant topic because we didn't have the time. But those are like 5 topics of 20 tweets. So yeah, you can see here like what are, you know, like death, travel, countries. So it's like, right, people are occupied, or like what matters to them are like what happens, right? So they can't travel, people are dying in the country. It's the 12th week of staying inside. Can you show us a different topic, please? Or here it's like family, we're all at home because of the lockdown and we are following the rules. We can't go to work. We haven't seen our friends, maybe something like that. Can you show us a different one? Right, and this one was, no, can you show us another one? Yeah, this one was very interesting. So it's more like, okay, what happens next year maybe? Will there be a different situation? And it was very interesting to see the basin here, basin? Yeah, right, so so people are more like, what's bothering them is the future, like what's going to happen in the future. And other people are more like occupied by what's happening in their lives right now. So they're at home with their families, stuff like that. Right.
Especially the words risk, vaccine, and hope together. So.
Or end crisis.
Yeah, end the crisis, right?
Yeah.
So this one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
this one was about family or?
Yeah, and health, school, patient, hospital.
Child, wife, parents.
Right.
School.
So it's just to see like what matters to certain people, what topics are important, right? Okay, can you go back to the presentation?
Sorry.
Okay, so for future work, we thought because our code for collecting the data, it allows to change the parameters, so you can search for certain people, not certain people, but you can have like a mixed data set with popular people on Twitter and normal people, but you can also only search for popular posts. So you could look into like what's important to popular people and what's important to normal people, or like compare different time periods, like what matters to people this week, but what mattered to people like 2 weeks ago. And also with the location, it's very interesting because we figured out that many posts from last week were sent from India. So we thought, okay, maybe this whole thing could work as a prediction. So a lot of people tweet from India about COVID. So maybe it could like be a prediction that COVID, is getting worse there.
Yes,
So,
and I found that very interesting when the tweets from popular people that are few tweets, that are 11, 20 tweets, and to compare with tweets from normal people, it is very, very few.
Yes, we had like 70 popular tweets from, I think, 2 days ago, but we had 14,000 tweets from the mixed group 2 days ago.
So thank you, guys. That's all the time we have for the presentation. And now we'll move on to questions.
I have some questions.
Yep.
So first, like how much data did you use for training and?
So for, we tried different sets. So we collected around 20,000 tweets, but our laptops weren't really able to deal with that. So the visualization we showed you with the blue dots, that was only on 20 tweets, but
but the word cloud and this bar plot was with the old data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
The example file that is uploaded is with 100 tweets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing, if you could go to the presentation. In the last slide, you mentioned something about Elasticsearch. Like, could you please elaborate a bit more on that? Like where you used and why, and or.
I just uploaded the data,
Mm-hmm.
TSV files in Elasticsearch, and I just created some tables with percentage of locations.
Okay. Okay.
So it's an online tool.
Yeah.
We didn't code it something for this reason. That is just a visualization.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do you have any questions? More?
I like that even though you didn't plot things on a map, you still gave us a geographical context.
Yeah, that was like the initial thought. We could use like a map, but just there was no time left.
Totally.
Yeah. But it's very interesting because I read a paper where people from Japan tweeted about not feeling well a couple of days before an earthquake happened. So
Wow.
people can be used as sensors for certain things. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And we definitely have seen that topics, especially on platforms like Twitter, can be real predictors in, in the world and politics and things like that.
Right.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
I have one really quick question, if you could answer. Why did you choose this model, specifically the LDA?
Just because it was very intuitive to work with. We found it on Google, like how it's just, programming is a lot of brain work, but it's also a lot of Google work.
And we have read, sorry. It separates the topics very good, was in the article, and it seems as good.
But I think it's one of the most common models for topic modeling. So we chose this one.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think no more questions, so you can go on to the other group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Team 089 from Munich. That was really awesome. And yeah, now we will invite the final team for the final pitch, and their team Confifi. Welcome.
I don't think they're here. Aishi, did you send them the invites from Zoom?
That's okay. We will wait. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi there.
I don't know if my team members have arrived yet.
They have. They're in the waiting room. I'll just let them in. Everybody's in?
I think we're missing Nadia and Hui.
I'm here.
Sorry, guys.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready to share the screen, and I will hand it over. Where does your team name come from?
Actually, it's French. It's not really French. It's like a word we invented, but it's from the French word confinement, which means lockdown.
D'accord. Very cool.
We're just waiting for Nadia. I think she's connecting. She's telling us to start without her because she can't get the Zoom working. So
All right.
sorry.
Well, no worries. I hope she can make it soon, and I will pass it over to you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So hi everyone, we're Team Confifi. And so we decided to work on track number 1, so on economics and finance. And we focused on markets behavior and during the COVID-19, and more specifically during the financial crash that happened between the, let's say, 24th of February to end of March. So our team is composed of Nadia, who is not there yet. We hope she can arrive soon. And Rui, who is there, I think.
I am, yeah.
And myself, Leila. So first, we're going to focus on COVID-19 and how it affected the stock markets, and more specifically on the stress levels of stock markets, so volatility of stock indices. Then we're going to focus on how is COVID-19 affecting the stock market in terms of daily returns, and more specifically the distribution of daily returns. And finally, we're gonna study the impact of this extreme event on risk assessment methods. And so I'm gonna hand it over to Rui, who is gonna talk about the first part.
Thank you, Lydia. So just as a quick introduction also on the tools that we used Yahoo's financial data associated with the World Health Organization data on the COVID pandemic. And we did everything on Python on a Jupyter notebook. So what you can see here on this graph is the VIX index. And the VIX index is mostly an anxiety index measurement. It pretty much tells how the market believes that the market itself will fluctuate in the next 12 months. And as you can see, we had the 2008 crisis here, the peak right in the middle. And then we're living an historical moment where we broke all the records on the anxiety measurements here in 2020. So it's pretty clear. Of course, everyone that lives now can say that this is the fact, but it's pretty clear that the market is very anxious. And there's a very high level of uncertainty in general. And the VIX index is one way to see this. Can I get the next slide, please?
Yes.
So this here then is the plotting of the VIX index against the number of cases in COVID. And you can see here that the stress started slowly as the pandemic grew. Probably there's a buffer in the market into believing that a very extreme situation will happen. But as soon as that materializes, you can see the VIX index shooting up, and you can see a small recovery. This recovery is probably due to the fact that as we understand the pandemic better, the uncertainty decreases, and then market anxiety won't follow the pandemic itself, they will follow the perceived level of uncertainty. And as we understand better the pandemic, as we understand better what this means, even though it's far from under control, the market will respond a little more positively in the sense of the anxiety. Yeah, and also, of course, the market won't respond only to COVID. We'll respond also to central bank announcements and other political events. So it's not really correlated to COVID itself, but more on the perceived anxiety in general. Yeah. So about this correlation, you can see there is a clear positive effect of the COVID cases with the perceived anxiety on the market, but that correlation is far from trivial. You can see here that's not a linear correlation, and that's not because the market is responding to COVID itself. It's responding to the chaos and uncertainty that COVID brings to the market and to the stock markets. So even though we have a clear correlation, that is not a linear correlation. And this is not a simple correlation, which will have very severe impacts in our ability to measure risk, because this is a very unprecedented and hard to understand correlation between COVID and the market. No. And is Nadia already with us?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm back. Sorry about that technical issue just before. Right, so in this first step, we wanted to see if there really is a correlation between the COVID-19 and the stock market behavior. Now that we kind of found out that there is one, even though it's not really direct, we wanted to focus on how it is affecting it exactly. And as we said, there's a lot that shows in the anxiety levels of the stock market. So what we did is focus on the S&P 500 stock index, as it gives us an idea of what's going on towards the United States, and what happens in the United States basically kind of decides what's going to happen in the rest of the world, and as like for finance anyways. So we used Jupyter Notebooks to plot the daily returns of the S&P 500 index all the way into 2020. And as we can see, the anxiety levels of the market can also be seen here. Like the curve is pretty flat throughout the first month and gets kind of crazy towards the end. It's not necessarily that it goes down or up. It just gets very extreme. So it's either really high or really low compared to what happened at the beginning of the year. I can switch to the next slide. So to see this a little bit better, and especially to compare it with what usually happens on the market, we decided to plot two histograms of the S&P 500 daily returns in 2019 compared to 2020. And well, the results are pretty interesting, just like looking at the plots. What's really clear here is that the 2019 one is very centered towards the middle. So you're not expecting to have really high gains or really big losses. Everything is kind of stable and predictable, especially whereas during the 2020 crisis, the curve is really flattened, which means that you're not gonna, like, it's still centered, but you could either have really high gains or really high losses. So as we mentioned a little bit about risk assessment, this is also something that shows us that it's very complicated to predict anything that could be happening on the market in 2020. And as much as you could win a lot of money out of it, you could also lose a lot of it. And so, yeah, so that's how we kind of got into the question of how would you in 2020 assess the risk that you could take on the stock market. And I think I can pass it on to Leila now.
So we decided to focus on one specific risk assessment method that is widely used in financial institutions such as banks, and it's called the VAR. It's the value at risk. So it's a very simplistic way of assessing loss or possible loss. So it measures the risk of loss for investments, and it just draws a normal curve for possible gains or losses, and then it draws a line at the 95th percentile, and it says it takes the number that's below, so the return, and so it says we are 95% sure that our losses won't exceed this point. So it's very useful to assess the risk of losses, but it follows a normal curve, and as we've seen, the normal curve was really different during the COVID crash. So we decided to compute this. We used the Monte Carlo simulation. It's a technique that's used to understand the impact of risk and uncertainty in financial models. And so we drew two random walks. We drew one using data from 2019, which was kind of a normal year in financial markets with normal returns. And so you can see that after 90 days, the return goes from 98.5, so minus 1.5%, or up 2%. And when you draw the 90-day random walk using COVID crash assumptions, the numbers are a lot wider. So you can have either big losses or big gains, as we've seen before. And so when we compute the VAR, using 2019 assumptions, you can say that in 2019, you were 99% sure that your daily loss wouldn't exceed minus 1.67%. However, with the COVID-19, during this period, you were 99% sure that your daily loss wouldn't exceed minus 10.5%. So it's a big difference. So our conclusion from all of this analysis is that this model is useless in extreme market conditions, such as the one we lived in February and March, and that risk models should be developed to assess risks in extreme market conditions, and that this would be useful for financial institutions to predict the loss that they could get in extreme situations such as COVID-19. Yeah.
That's all the time we have for the presentations. And now we'll move on to questions.
So do you have questions? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That's really, really neat. Had you guys ever looked at financial data before, or was this like your first time?
No, so Rui and I, not really. I don't think. I haven't. Leila actually works in finance, so she definitely has.
Yeah, Leila was our financial brain behind the whole project.
Awesome. Yeah, it really shows that you have a lot of like insight into that. So that's really cool. Is there anything that you would have liked to have done given more time or something?
I think we discussed it a lot. It would be very nice to have, after declaring that the current risk assessment is inadequate for this period, to come up with some suggestions on which models would be more adequate, or which configuration tweaks we could do to the existing models to better predict risk in such a weird situation. But unfortunately, we didn't get that far. But that's the beginning the groundwork, so to say, for finding a better model, because investments cannot go to a halt during this period, and they kind of do because risk assessment is impossible to do right now.
Makes sense. I know we have two judges here from Invensity. Do you guys have any questions?
So far not. I like the presentation. I think it was well explained. So I think it's okay. I understood what I needed to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, no questions from my side.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you very, very, very much, Team Confifi, and also to everyone in all the teams for sharing your pitches with us. We're going to take a 15-minute break. So you can all kind of chill for a little bit, and we'll be back with the winners announcements and the follow-up teams and just like a really quick wrap up. So thank you everyone once again for being punctual and you know, respecting the time limits and doing amazing, amazing presentations. And we will see you shortly.
Some stats with you and what we've gone through this weekend. So we had 6 teams in total in the end, 25 participants and 40 hours of hacking. We had 2 technical workshops, one in the economic and financing data and another one on the tweets. So we're using Twitter API. And we also had some inspiring speaker sessions. Also, of course, a very relaxing yoga session. So after 40 hours of hacking, we had to have a break. And our break was the yoga session. When you all applied, this is what you told us, what you expect from the hackathon. So of course, you expect it to be a hackathon. A data science hackathon, a big data, so using Python and meaningful project and real data, real world problems. And maybe, Christina, you want to talk something about how it was this weekend?
Yeah, sure, Patricia. I think like we all agree that it was super intensive, active, with a lot of energy, positive energy from all participants. Some of them shared our pictures, how they took it, how it was going. So here we can see some lovely pictures of our participants and organizers. So we're all quite super excited of achieved results as we find out about very interesting projects. So we quite love it a lot. So it was, we can move to the next slide.
Oh, yeah, so this is where we were located. It's all around the world.
So, yeah, I think here we have all representatives from who took a part in our hackathon from each country, which is marked here. So
if we included like a country of origin, I think it would be even more interesting.
This is like our time zones basically as well, right? So we have basically all time zones around the world. It was really fun. And now for the winners, Joanna, maybe you.
Okay, I think it was the other Joanna, but I can take over.
It's okay.
The other Joanna is muted. If she thinks she should speak.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Okay, so
congratulations, Body System, you are at the 3rd place. So yeah.
Yay! Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We know that this was your first hackathon, so congrats.
So 2nd place wins Crown Pride. Yoo-hoo!
Congrats!
Congratulations!
And now?
The 1st place, it's a tie, Confifi and Quatrefoil. And maybe I should give the word to my teammates. And congratulations to Confifi and Quatrefoil. This is the 1st place. It's really nice. And
congrats.
Yeah, so congratulations to all the teams. May I explain how we come to this result here? Actually, for all the teams, I think it was a quite interesting time, and they did learn a lot. And I think since we know this was the main goal for all of you to learn, to have fun. And after our consultation, we think Confifi and Quatrefoil, you have really big heads up here, and we decided to have 2 winners since both teams had very promising results here. So Confifi, for our point of view, had the best whole package. So everything was presented very well. It was rounded, had a very nice logical chain here, good data analysis. So the best package in total. And Quatrefoil had the perfect presentation, really professional results here. The data and usefulness is a little bit lower than from Confifi, but nevertheless, the very professional presentation here. So congratulations to this 1st place. And since you all know, the 1st prize is a presentation from my company, from my colleague, and our since the teams here are not so big, we can also give this 1st prize to you both teams, which will have the presentation together with my colleague Johannes Schumann, and we will contact the 1st prize winners in order to give you this presentation. 2nd place here, Crown Pride. We all agreed that the technical analysis here was exceeding, but unfortunately the presentation at the end was missing a kind of a red thread here. So if you work on your presentation skills a little bit and consolidate your data, I think you're in a really, really, really good track here. Last but not least, Badis in STEM, 3rd place, a very good 3rd place here. You had a nice and intuitive graphical analysis and nice reports here. And we think that this is a very nice 3rd place for you. So yeah, then congrats from my side, and I give the board back to Emily, I guess.
Yeah, so exactly. Congratulations, everybody. It's been a super fun weekend. And then the top 3-4 teams, we did say that we'll be doing some social media promotions, but of course, everyone who has participated will be creating some participation certificates for you that you can use to promote yourself online. But yeah, thank you so much. This was amazing. We'll leave you with some links to remember. So if you want to kind of go back at some point, we have all of the live streams we'll keep up on our Female Tech Leaders YouTube channel. This is a link to our website, and as well a link to Invensity. Thank you so much once again for being our partner, for helping us judge these presentations, and for being with us throughout the entire hackathon. It's been truly amazing. So thank you very, very, very much, Nadine and Louis, and Invensity in general. And then stay tuned. We'll be posting updates about the hackathon on the website. So we'll write a little blog post, and maybe we can even share links to the code that you guys have worked on and the winners and everything, just because it's been really great. So I guess we can go to the very last slide, and we'll leave you it's been an intense weekend. So it's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining over all of the time zones. Our first virtual hackathon with big data, focusing on COVID-19 and its global effects. I certainly learned a lot. It was super cool seeing what everyone came up with. And now we can go to sleep.